Very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Really, whatever works best for you is the best place for you to be as we continue our mission to, A, have live local talk radio here in the borderland, and B, to, well, not just have it, it's not a cake and you eat it too kind of situation. We want to do something with it, and that is to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, because there are so many, and no one else is going to talk about them the way that we are. A lot of people always trying to tell us what we think or how we should feel, etc., and well, good luck with that, because I don't think that is really working out for anyone there. Telling us, no, this is how you feel. Trust me. How often has that ever worked out for you or anyone that you know in your life? And so discussing it, getting into the details, and yes, even getting into the controversies, as long as we're not just bashing each other. They can do that literally everywhere else on the internet. Substantive discussion is what we hope and strive for, and sometimes get. So as we have Austin Redfern over on the social media, what's up to you as well? Okay, now I'm going to try the, what was that, late 90s, early 2000s Budweiser commercial? Anyway, I mean, I guess that's the way I'm taking it there. But lots of stuff to get to here today. A couple things top of mind for this. Okay, I'm not going to call it the holiday malaise is already in place, but I'm going to say things do feel a little bit lackadaisical in some way, but there's still plenty to talk about, don't worry, including, of course, we got some very important dates coming up when it comes to immigration, border security, those local issues that we have been very much discussing, including the end of Title 42 as court ordered so far. So bunch of questions exist around there, including what comes next, and specifically some of the local preparations and local measures being put into place, being discussed today and tomorrow, particularly in El Paso City Council. Get into what some of those possibilities are, as well as some more interesting circumstances involving what could be coming up with El Paso's district attorney, the seat, that is. Of course, the resignation of the current district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, has been accepted now by Governor Greg Abbott, and do believe he has, okay, I'm not sure if it's 8 days like absolute or if this is like an 8 business days thing, but anyway, we're technically in the countdown for a actual having to have a decision made. And so there's been one big name that I got actually asked, why didn't I mention over the weekend? And so we'll get into that, particularly with the response coming from this person on their own about why their thoughts on the whole process here. As we also have RJ saying, don't you just hate know-it-alls, especially when you do know it all? You know what? I've never experienced absolutely knowing it all, but know-it-alls in general. How many times can I say know-it-all in this segment? In this section, yeah, I think I get your point there. Eric Von Holstein Rathlow, hope you all had a blessed weekend. Hope you did as well. So we're doing prayer hands, peace, and rock on there. Appreciate it there. And asking if we've got some links and quotes here. Did receive them. We did have some interesting things going on over the weekend, so we'll see if we can actually get into those here a little bit later in the week. In any case, got a lot more to talk about today, including, of course, one other thing. By the way, there's an election. Just saying, and okay, I tell you what, just because I don't think I'm going to be able to keep my, not going to call it rage, but extreme frustration. That's the nice, polite way to put it here about how the turnout is so far. Anyone want to take bets on where we are on the voter turnout so far? No cheating, no looking up. As also have Angel Rueda looking over there, but let's just put a pin in that and say that we're at about 1%. 1% voter turnout so far with the early voting here. So as much as election fatigue and all this other kind of stuff is definitely in place, I am RJ 1875. Honestly, you weren't that far off. Okay, spoiler alert, 1,611. So just over 1,600 people have voted so far out of an eligible pool for those races that are actually in runoffs of about 160,000. 160,624 to be perfectly exact, though numbers don't really work that well over radio. So just remember 160,000, and we got about 1,600 that have voted so far. I went the voting location I was at. Apparently, they give you a little bit of a readout there. I didn't notice it. My spouse did, and said that, oh, look, there's about 350, 380, somewhere in there. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, that's a good turnout this day. No, it wasn't, because that's the total amount that have voted there so far, and it went on Saturday. So this has been a few full days here. Some of these, oh gosh, I really feel for some of these voting elections officials. Okay, someone please go vote at the South El Paso Senior Citizen Center, where like on Thursday they had literally one person go and vote there. So I just feel bad. Like if it wouldn't be weird and probably bordering on impropriety, I'd like send them a fruit basket saying we appreciate your efforts here. Don't think I won't actually do that, because I am sure that there are some kind of ethics policies that wouldn't allow me to do that. But consider it if there anyone out there at that South El Paso Senior Citizen Center is out there, know that I feel for you. And I hope you keep toughing it out and still providing the ability for people to vote in that area. Lorenzo Colon asking what kind of questions are on the ballot. It's actually pretty simple. We got 3 city council seats. We got District 1, District 6, and District 8. So to look at the actual specifics of it and make sure I'm not messing up any names, District 1, we got Brian Kennedy versus Annalisa Cordova Silverstein. District 6, Claudia Lizette Rodriguez versus Art Fierro. And in District 8, Bettina Olivares versus Chris Canales. Remember, none of these are, well, one incumbent there, Claudia Lizette Rodriguez, but all of these are happening because no one was able to actually capture that 50% plus 1 margin in the initial election. So of the 4 city council elections we had on the ballot, and this is a laugh to keep from crying kind of moment, only 3 of them, well, only one of them was actually able to, the incumbent there was able to secure re-election, and all the rest of them, well, here, let's do the time warp again, basically. And RJ saying, well, talk about feeling left out. Again, I saw that number, and as much as a spreadsheet has ever gotten me close to tears, never really has, this is probably the closest I've ever gotten. Just one is the loneliest number playing in the back of my head, all of that kind of thing here. And John Browson is saying, yeah, only small splinters of the total El Paso population are voting in these elections. That's true in a couple of ways. That, yes, we're only talking about 3 city council districts, so it is only 160,000 people that do qualify out of the, what is the actual city population these days? I keep looking at the Trans Mountain side, in which it was like 500,000-600,000. So, yeah, we're at a fraction of the total population of El Paso anyway. But there's only a fraction of that fraction that have actually bothered. So, if you live in District 1, 6, or 8, make your plan to go vote. You got time. You do have time to make your plan. Don't think like, oh, well, I missed it. Don't worry. And if anything, gosh, just call this the soapbox segment here. If anything, the fact that there's such tiny turnout could mean that your carload, busload, organized group of people going to vote could potentially make a difference in some of these elections. As much as everyone's vote, I think, does matter, and I will argue that till I'm out of breath. But if you want to really get the biggest bang for your buck, yeah, this is the time, because your vote is therefore so much more a percentage of the total votes cast in any one of these races. Like, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that you could be the literal deciding vote. And that possibility alone, as much as I'm the weird guy who will wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night thinking, oh my gosh, did I miss voting an election? Because, that stuff goes on. Like, it feels like my report card these days, particularly since anyone can look that up. Not who you voted for, but the fact that you voted, which is why I get all the texts and mailers and everything, because I vote early and vote often. And Ed Clore saying, post about 1,600 plus voted. Yep, 1611 as of, well, yesterday. We'll, of course, have more voting totals coming out today, but the El Paso County Elections Department puts out that information after each day's tally is done. So, as much as, didn't bear out this last time. Usually, previously, it has been about 50% votes early, and then about 50% of the total final voting amount end up voting on Election Day. It was about more like, not quite 60-40, more like 66-33% split between that. It was about double the amount voted early that voted in person in the actual November election. So now that we're in the runoff for it, if that holds out, we're looking at maybe 2%. I'm hoping that's not the case, but oh gosh, it feels like we're still going to set the bar low and limbo right under it if we're only going to hope for double digits. Can we do double digits again? That's my very, very, very minimal hope at this point in time here. So we got other substantive things to go on, but that was going to be like just festering in the back of my brain and probably breaking out when I didn't mean it to, like a kind of mildly political Tourette syndrome if I didn't get that out there. So go vote. Yeah, go do that. Get your nice, I had my sticker here somewhere. I got the nice El Paso I voted sticker this time around. So please, 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 please make your plan and then actually go vote. If you don't live in those districts, find someone you know that does and convince them, drag them, give them a ride, buy them a beer after, whatever you have to do just to get them to go vote, please. Anyway, that's the first segment here, and I have talked right through this first break already. So getting back on track and getting back into what we need to be doing on the show, talking about a few other things on the program as well, including what comes up next for the district attorney's office, the actual office itself, and some speculation. One big name that I haven't mentioned so far, well, what they have to say, and, well, why I didn't bring them up yet. All that and more, plus more on some of the other, well, immigration and border security situations we dealt with locally. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there. Phone calls a little bit later in the show, as we usually do. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, and age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Water heating can account for up to 25% of the energy consumed in your home. Save money and energy and improve the comfort of your home by turning down the temperature of your water heater from 140 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It can save you up to 22% on your energy bill annually. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
3D printing, cyber defense, robotics, automation. This is advanced manufacturing, and it's El Paso's next frontier. One that our region has been building for years, and it's shaping us to be the hub for what the future holds, bringing a new era of progressive education, future-forward jobs, and higher wages. The next chapter starts now. Visit elpasotexas.gov/next frontier to see how our story unfolds.
El Paso Children's Hospital is excited to welcome Dr. Jonathan Chow, ENT, and Dr. Amanda Chow, audiologist, to our new pediatric ear, nose, and throat clinic, where we will now offer cochlear implants. Serving a 350-mile radius, there's only one El Paso Children's Hospital.
The station you love? It's on the free iHeartRadio app. The artists you love? They're on the free iHeartRadio app too. The podcasts everyone's talking about? You guessed it, they're all here. Download the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
iHeartRadio! Make the season even brighter with beautiful jewelry from JTV. Shop JTV.com and get $25 off your purchase of $50 or more when you use code RADIO25. You'll discover more than 40,000 jewelry designs and gifts. That's enough to keep everyone on your list sparkling all season long. Plus, new customers will receive $40 in brilliant cash to use toward their next jewelry purchase. Shop JTV.com and use code RADIO25 and fill your holiday with sparkle.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff to be talked about over there. A lot of people chiming in over on those pages. Eric McNabb, RJ, Ed Clore, John Brazelton, Lorenzo Colon, Angel Rueda, Eric Von Holstein Rathlow, and Austin Redfern. Again, if you want to drop those likes, reacts, also appreciate it. Robert Haynes, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and James Holmes doing that, sending the example that way. Do appreciate it, even if we're still mildly perturbed over the election results here. One comment coming in. Eric McNabb saying, if only the corrupt Republican Texas Secretary of State didn't remove voters from the voter rolls to disenfranchise the working class and Hispanics. I think you're referring to there what happened, not even, well, recently is a relative term and feels like it's a lot longer these days, but I think you're talking about the voter roll audit that happened, gosh, I want to say pre-2020 and then kind of into it outside of actual like election things. I think that's what you're referring to there in the, okay, there's the comment. And I don't think that actually ended up going through. I mean, among other things, the Texas Secretary of State has actually now resigned. And so Greg Abbott will be appointing another one there, current Texas Secretary of State, John Scott. Well, stepping down at the end of the year. So, less than a month away at this point. But to my understanding, none of those actual efforts really moved forward because there were those ideas of removing voters from the rolls, and they faced significant legal challenges, even just technical ones of, essentially, it seemed like there was a kind of stated like, okay, we think we're going to find this of being maybe a lot of ineligible people who shouldn't be. And part of the problem was that they were using outdated data sets, including people who may have been like green card holders, legal permanent residents, that kind of thing, who have since become citizens, ending up getting kicked off. So don't believe that actually ended up moving forward in any substantive way, even if there has in the interim been more going on with, say, election audits, full forensic audits of like both 2020 and, well, probably not 2022 just yet, but I think that's kind of getting geared up for anyway. But speaking of what is going on in the outcome of local elections, as much as we've got city council making big decisions, one big potential impact that we are seeing for the next few days as local immigration numbers, both CBP encounters, community releases, and things like that continue to creep up. Even if transportation has not resumed, well, they have a little bit more discussion happening on all sides of that, frankly. So what El Paso City Council is discussing both today. Okay, so El Paso City Council, if anyone confused about this, because it's even changed since I was able to last really go into city council chambers and view a full session of city council, as then they got the work session on Mondays and then the meeting on Tuesday. So a lot of the technical stuff gets figured out today, but it's okay. This is probably my bad interpretation of it, but I kind of think of it as city council light in that it's not the full, they're not actually voting on it, and a lot of pretext is getting set there, even though it's definitely not light. Like, it gets technical and a lot of graphs, charts, those kind of things can end up getting pulled out with this. A lot of debate, discussion, and setting of the agenda. So it's not a simpler way to try and view what actually city council is doing, if that's hope they didn't get that impression from me. But of course, according to our news partners over there at KFOX 14, EP City Council considers extending emergency ordinance regarding migrant crisis. Of course, some of the questions that have been asked about, what is the authority? How has this money been being spent here? Because there has not been the emergency declaration, though this does end up feeling a little bit more semantical. That's not really a word, but I like it, except for the fact that an actual emergency declaration would involve things like state resources, and that has been a choice very much not focused on whenever it comes to, specifically city council, I guess. But they do have this emergency ordinance that has been in place that has been part of this, particularly the funding that people have been questioning about. And so there are, of course, time limits on it. Emergency, part of the name there, you can't have it indefinite, otherwise starts raising other questions about, is this truly indefinite or is this truly just for emergency? And in this case, they are looking at potentially extending it, as we are, of course, impending that end of Title 42. For anyone living under, again, that particularly soundproof and large rock, Title 42 expected to expire on the on December 21st. We also got some other discussion going on in the comments I'll mention here in a second. But the actual expiration of it expected to cause without anything else concrete being talked about kind of in the replacement of it. I mean, yes, there are existing immigration laws, processes, kind of things here, but as we've definitely seen locally, that those resources in support of those laws and policies to what will still exist have been very much strained, if not overwhelmed at points in time. There's a lot of discussion about what has been being moving back and forth. So that's definitely a having to be focused on locally about what will come next. So again, not a lot of clarity on what will be put in place by the administration, if anything. Honestly, handicapping this is speculative at best. And again, the crystal ball is as cloudy as ever, but I would see it maybe not exactly even odds, but decently even chances of there being either a completely new set of policies put into place. Because again, you got to remember, most of the immigration policies or immigration rules that you've heard of lately, ever since, going back to the Obama administration, have been things that were put into place by executive order through the executive branch of the country here. So there's not actually laws that have been passed, no legislation that was voted on and then signed in, just something put into place as a, hey, here's how we're going to tackle this issue where the law falls short, essentially. That's some of the arguments. Sure, there are further arguments to be made, whether that's contravention or not, and why there are seemingly endless court cases involving these. But again, I give it probably even-ish odds of there either being no policy put into place or there being whole new sets of them under some kind of new name, title, something or other. Potentially, maybe, who knows? Again, that's at least some of the speculation and concern that has been expressed by local nonprofit communities. And so kind of in that same vein, City of El Paso looking at extending its ability to fund responses, set up centers, and potentially do busing, even if there is still that, according to the City of El Paso's migrant crisis dashboard. Again, elpasotexas.gov /migrant-crisis. And so the migrant dashboard shows that we are pretty well starting to creep back up towards some of the recent high levels. If you want to look back towards the week 40 of the year, I still need to figure out how to convert that recently. We had about 6,800 community releases that happened that calendar week, again, according to the City of El Paso's data here. And for the most recent week, week 48, we were at about 6,000 releases. So it's been creeping up immediately after the Title 42 expansion happened to apply more to those also of Venezuelan origin. It dropped not quite precipitously, but more or less by half, a little less than half, to about 3,700 releases. But we're also looking at how the in-custody 7-day rolling average and encounter 7-day rolling average have both been creeping back up since that point. So we're not quite back at those most recent high water marks, but we are approaching them. For example, the CBP in custody 7-day rolling average, again, according to the data from the City of El Paso, was about 4,500, 4,568 to be exact, and we were just under 4,000 in this most recent week. So it already, even before the removal of Title 42 is put into place, we already know that there has been conversation, and I'm just going to call it marketing, been going on about this. I mean, the cartels have been very quick to seize on any perceived ability to see things change or to just use it to their advantage here. And yeah, correct myself here. The 7-day rolling average 39.33. So again, still pretty close to just under 4,000. I feel pretty confident in saying. So we're seeing numbers continuing to rise and maybe plateau, but yeah. City of El Paso definitely considering what needs to be done next and what resources need to be available. But the last number I want to mention here is that, again, the estimation from the City of El Paso, the total cost that have been put out so far since the start of the year, including the first quarter, but the first and second quarter of this year, the costs were respectively about $157,000 and $81,000 as compared to the not even just order of magnitude jump, but just sizable and just major increase. Third quarter was $4.6 million, just for the examples here. And then fourth quarter so far, as of actually just October 31st. So you need some update to that number, about $4.11 million. So total cost so far to the City of El Paso is reckoning about $9.52 million this year, with about $2.2 million received in reimbursement so far, including the prepayment that did more or less happen for, fourth quarter. So, yeah, there might be more need for it as we still end up seeing. I mean, there's even been local reporting and something that y'all have noted about seeing individuals, waiting at bus stations and in the airports. And honestly, I'm going to call that, for the situation, a good thing that they're at transportation areas, because you got to remember, even just numbering weeks, if not a couple of months ago, when there was potential of having people camped out on the streets here. So going to call it at least that part of the status quo probably important, but we still got a lot more to do and to go there. So that action coming from City Council, vote expected more or less tomorrow on that, and we will just have to see where we actually end up in the long run. So with that in mind, got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, more talk about the district attorney's office. No, not trying to rehash or give you the blow-by-blow updates on what's happening with that, but one major name that I have not mentioned, and we'll explain why, and also what they are saying in regards to the potential replacement for the El Paso district attorney, or the district attorney for El Paso, I should more accurately say. All that and more coming out after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more to talk about, a lot more to get into here, and a lot more comments that we'll get to. Phone lines in a bit, as we usually do, but in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso Children's Hospital is at full bed capacity due to flu and RSV cases. Officials at the hospital say they've seen an increase in RSV and flu cases throughout the past several weeks. They say the number of patients during the time of year is much higher than in previous respiratory seasons. RSV typically affects children. Officials say that there has also been an uptick in COVID-19 cases and that hospitalizations have doubled in the last 2 to 3 weeks. There are currently 100 patients hospitalized with COVID-19 in El Paso County. In southern New Mexico, a man from Ruidoso was sentenced to life in prison after he killed his 2-year-old toddler. Ricardo Soto was sentenced today. Soto was convicted of intentional child abuse resulting in death. In the death of 2-year-old Jeremiah Nevares, the child was killed in 2018. Soto fled to Mexico before his arrest at the border. Soto won't be eligible for parole for at least 25 years. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. With the recent rains, we could be waking up yet again to some patchy dense fog, especially for those areas in the low-lying locations in the valleys. As far as our forecast goes through the rest of the day, we are looking at another front coming in by midweek, and that will introduce a little more moisture with a slight increase in rain chances and some cooler temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, and age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's.
Mom, Dad, let's talk. Before you know it, I'm out of here. I want to go to college. Or start a business. My allowance ain't gonna cut it. Ooh, sorry I said ain't.
The UNEST app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. And with the UNEST gifting link, friends and family can contribute to your child's account. Start investing today. Download the UNEST app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
Want to get 7 streaming services for the price of 1? Sign up for a smart bundle that'll stimulate your brain. Featuring Curiosity Stream with the best documentary films and TV shows. Nebula for thought-provoking content from your favorite creators. And One Day University with the best lectures from the country's top professors. And so much more. It's perfect for families with all kinds of interests. And great content for kids. It also makes a perfect holiday gift. Now at 40% off, get all 7 services for only $3.50 a month. Sign up now at smartbundle.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, and age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Again, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one. It's where a lot of the comments come in anyway, but anywhere that really works for you under similar names, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Yes, there are other Facebook pages, but YouTube also is pretty simple. Particularly if you don't have an account. Sure, you can't comment, but if you want to see it, stare at my mug, whatever works for you. I don't judge here. Just as long as you're wanting to talk about the things or just to be informed about the things that affect us here in the borderland, you're absolutely in the right place. Joanne's chiming in. Hello from YouTube. Do appreciate that there. And a few other commentary, including John Brazelton saying, neighbor's been working on his Christmas decorations all day. Just went out and hung my one decoration on the door. I'm through. And Barbara Codasco wishing him well, saying, hope you took a rest after the exhausting hanging that close, that quote, one a decoration. I mean, yeah, we got an inflatable finally up in our yard that we have very well staked down. I never have felt that kind of existential terror about the wind around here until I had something that was literally light and filled with air on its own here. And I used to have a trampoline growing up. Anyway, point is that hope you're celebrating as you see fit here. Definitely see a lot more lights going up here. Okay, question I want to put out there. Is it worth it to put up a tree if it's going to be up for like 2 weeks? I'm one of those. Thanksgiving is a damn holiday, and let's put up lights things after that here. And I basically got responded to by some people very close in my life that then what's the point of putting up a tree if we have it for less than a month? So I just want to put that question out there and know what y'all think about it. Is it still worth it to put up a tree? You're still doing it for like 2 weeks. Just still a long time in my mind. Anyway, one of the big questions, of course, that's been going on out of the entirety of last week is what is going to happen with the El Paso District Attorney's Office? Now, of course, the situation as it currently stands, ball is completely, firmly, and entirely within the governor's mansion. It's his choice there. Eric McNabb on the tree saying get a plastic one. We've got a plastic one. So it's not a guy who used to have horrible allergies growing up until we finally got an artificial tree and realized it's the damn tree. Anyway, point is that, yeah, we got a plastic one, but even from then wondering, asking, is it worth it to put it up for, the end of the month here and like actually Advent season? Anyway, point is that on this district attorney situation, Governor Greg Abbott, that will be his choice to make here. And we've had some mild speculation. It's hard exactly to pull up a short list because of the various considerations that go into who will be coming next. In any case, we brought up a few names, some of those that were either involved previously in the office. Barbara Codasco bringing up one that has been suggested here, Jeff Alley, who has sat on the 8th Court of Appeals. I keep wanting to put district in there, but I keep being wrong, so pretty sure I'm saying it right this time. 8th Court of Appeals. Currently sitting there, though he was voted out in the last election, so that's a potential future previous guest on the show here as well in the lead up to the November election. That's a possibility, but there's been one big name that I kind of specifically hadn't mentioned because of not any kind of, I don't want to talk about the guy. Talking about State Rep Joe Moody, who actually I do believe represents me where I now live or do now live. After redistricting, things are a little bit unclear to me, but he was on the ballot on my part of it. And so he has been put forth, and this isn't even the first time that I have had his name brought up to me about what is he going to do in regards to the district attorney election when we've had some out-of-town guests from like a Texas Association of Broadcasters and related organizations. He was come up as do you think he'll run for it? And my supposition at the time that definitely bore out was, no, he's very committed to the legislature at this point in time. And even as this comes up here, well, I hadn't mentioned him because I didn't see it as being particularly likely for a variety of the reasons we've talked about here, but he actually did a sizable post on his public social media recently saying, and I'll just quote a couple of segments from here, starting at the top. Like many others, I've been watching the events leading to District Attorney Yvonne Rosales' resignation with disbelief and disappointment. My heart aches for El Paso. We deserve better justice. One of the worst things about her resignation is that it deprives El Paso voters of a choice. Now, one man 100 miles away in Austin, Governor Greg Abbott will choose who our DA will be for the next 2 years. I've repeatedly heard from El Pasoans that they hope or even expect I'll be appointed to that role. I'm honored by the trust they have in me, but I'm afraid that isn't going to happen. The reality is, and these appointments are partisan, so the governor will select a member of his own party. There's no chance a Democrat will be chosen. And he goes on to say, as part of it here, that while he does appreciate the idea and the idea of being involved with it and wanting to deal with the aftermath of what has happened with this office, that he is still very committed to the legislature, and particularly since we are on the cusp of the legislative session, that throwing someone new into that position at this point in time, he would see as a disservice to the community in its own way. So we closes by saying that El Paso needs a DA who's honest, smart, and experienced in policy and in management, someone with both big ideas and a firm grasp of the fundamentals of someone running an office. Until we get to make that choice, I hope that whoever the governor picks will serve professionally and capably. Yeah, that would be, I guess I just call that a short list of the requirements there. John Browsland saying, sorry, Moody is a hardcore Democrat. How about the previous El Paso mayor? Wonder which one you're talking about there. If you're talking about Cook or are you talking about Margot? Curious to know which one you're talking about here, because there's a few previous El Paso mayors. Wardy also occasionally has made a comment or called into the show, I do believe. So there's a few of them kicking out there. Curious to know which one, if you mean the most previous one or a different previous one. And potentially, again, I think the management aspect of it is probably the part that is most needed at this point in time. I mean, obviously, prosecutorial experience and knowledge is a baseline. Like, literally, it's a requirement for the office to be able to hold it. You can't just put any geek off the street into that position, even if they have run a warehouse or a complicated office or a high-powered group of brokers, whatever, insert managerial job here that could have relevant experience, but they still have to be member of the bar, those kind of things. And I think the minimum age is 18, which don't think we'll ever get anywhere near that. How could even be on the bar in that case? In any case, yeah, it's still probably not going to be Joe Moody, even though there has been, I mean, he's got some statewide prominence. It may be forgotten here that he was the Speaker of the House pro tem at previous points in time. I don't believe he holds that post anymore, but that was, let's just say the Texas legislature doesn't work solely on partisan bounds. But one thing that has been going on is the discussion with the state legislature that we haven't really touched on, so it may not have come up in front of y'all screens, is that there has been this previous, actual spirit of bipartisanship that in order to still have more legislative buy-in, that some committee seats were given to Democrats in some cases, even though there definitely was not a Democrat majority able to enforce that. Like you see at the federal level, the party in power tends to take over different chairships of whatever the committees or subcommittees are. There was some of that happened at this level, but a kind of one of those existential debates that particularly like Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, has been involved in is about ending that practice. It's not exactly you have to change rules or anything, but yeah, there might be some like bylaws or just party kind of business to have to be dealt with there, but it's technically a possibility. But given that the fact that debate is going on right now, yeah, I would make that even less of a possibility that a Democrat will get picked as part of this here. So still a lot of speculation to be had until we fully hear about what is going on from if you've got a short list or just an announcement. I get the announcements from the governor's office and haven't seen anything even potentially cross with that just yet. So have to keep our eyes open, but the speculation does continue on, but wanted to at least mention that was, it kind of felt like an elephant in the room the way I hadn't brought it up here so far. And more I'll talk about having a Democrat in office when a Republican appointed here or vice versa, coming up the comments as well, including Barbara Carrasco here saying every judge in El Paso is a Democrat. Is against the Dems religion to have a Republican in office here. I guess I'm seeing the sour grapes there. But again, just given the other circumstances that we're dealing with in the statewide politics, don't see it necessarily happening at this point in time, even if however qualified the individual may be. In any case, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talking a little bit more about elections, but also opening up those phone lines as we do at this point during the show. So if you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
Job hunting? Better do your homework. We're talking with Colleen Tressler, a consumer education specialist with the FTC's Division of Consumer and Business Education. So Colleen, tell us, what do job seekers need to know about the scams they might run into out there?
Two common scams we hear about on a regular basis involve working from home and fake job offers. Working from home is more common these days. Scammers know that and are posting ads offering online jobs. And they'll often say you can make loads of money in a short time, which is a sure sign of a scam. Other scammers will pretend to be someone they're not, posting ads that offer positions that don't exist. It can be tricky to tell what's a real job and when they're just after your money or personal information. But a little research can help you separate fact from fiction.
Thank you, Colleen. If you'd like more information, you can easily find it. Just head out to consumer.ftc.gov today.
Your Social Security disability claim has been denied. In this stressful situation, you aren't alone. John Sipes, attorney at law, can help. If you're between 55 and 65 years old, can no longer work, and have been denied disability benefits by the Social Security Administration, or need help applying, contact John Sipes. Even if you're under 55 and a serious mental or physical impairment prevents you from working, John Sipes is here for you. Get started at elpasodisabilitylawyer.com. That's elpasodisabilitylawyer.com.
Updated COVID vaccines have arrived just in time to offer protection against the original COVID virus and Omicron. And that's the moment we've all been waiting for. Find updated COVID vaccines for everyone 5 and older at vaccines.gov. We can do this. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways for children of all ages to learn about sustainability and environmental education at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, and age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program when we have that phone line open. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If you're calling in the middle of a segment, it might get put on a brief hold there. But as long as you can hear the show, you should be able to hear it while you're on the phone there. You'll be in the right place, and we'll get with you in short order. Don't worry. also going to get popped up live. So pay attention to the phone. In any case, a lot of calls coming in there, and we'll get to those. Some availability at the moment here. A lot of comments coming in as well. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. Frank Rodriguez, Matt Olson, Robert Haynes, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and James Holmes, including some interesting suggestions, such as Louis Benato for, I think, referring to the district attorney's office, saying, I nominate David Duke. To hope you're not thinking that the David Duke you'll get is the one played by Topher Grace in Black Klansman, because, yeah, that's not going to be him. So if you're interested in having a white supremacist in over this city here, you think you're going to have a better time than we did under this existing district attorney that didn't even have those level of issues involved with it? To hope that you're tongue-in-cheek there, because otherwise that just makes no God bless sense. Anyway, getting back to the phone lines now, and a lot of different comments on district attorneys' possibilities there. Again, a lot of speculation at this point in time. And well, I'm going to call that one, even with the crystal ball completely blank on that one, I'm going to call that one not happening. I don't even know if he's a member of the bar or do you have to be a resident of Texas, those kind of things. Any case, let's get back to the phone lines here, or go to the phone lines. We do have Barbara on the west side with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that in your intro, you were talking about Title 42,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard just this morning that the Biden administration, if we can believe this, I heard that the Biden administration was thinking about making changes to their immigration policies, and I thought to myself, yeah, right. But regarding the cartel, if you think about a nimble organization, an adaptive organization, it's the cartel. There's nothing the Biden administration is going to do that's going to keep them from making the money that they're making. So, that ship has already left. And then I heard Brandon Judd twice saying what a great guy that Mayorkas is, that he knows him, and that Mayorkas is only doing what he has to do, or what he's told to do, not asked. And I thought, wait a minute, you can be told to do something, and if it's not the right thing for your department or your country, why do you proceed doing it? just resign, send a message, but that's not what they do. And then I was wondering, maybe you have the answer, I'm not sure. How are those individuals that they're busing in from Eagle Pass into El Paso, how are they being counted? Because I heard that they were overwhelmed in Eagle Pass, and that was since last week. So I'm wondering, all right, so they're bringing busloads here, but how is that count adding in anywhere?
So there's one of two ways that I don't have the definitive answer for you, but let me just explain my thought process here. There's one of two ways that could be being dealt with here. It could either be that they are being brought in essentially after apprehension, or after they present themselves to the authorities, whatever the circumstances in those individual situations are, and that they are then brought here to go through our facilities, because even though we are still having sizable numbers, I'm going to say, without having ever actually toured the facilities in Eagle Pass, that we probably have more extensive facilities here. At the very least, we have, say, the Border Patrol Sector Headquarters here. We've got a bunch of different detention facilities and processing facilities, that some of which I have been in here locally. So not being 100% sure, I would be willing to guess that we have maybe more facilities here. So what has happened in the past, if that is the circumstance of where a locality that does not have the infrastructure, so to speak, to support this, is finding itself having an influx that it is not able to handle, that what will happen, as this has happened in 2014, 2016, and probably in 2018, though waters start getting muddied at that point, is that they will then, after they are apprehended, and not even just initial processing, but okay, we're going to process you elsewhere, you're getting on this bus, plane, etc., and in this case being brought to El Paso. So if that is the case, to my understanding, the way these numbers are formulated, it would be part of the in-custody numbers here in El Paso. Maybe not the apprehend, because remember, there's three numbers that the city of El Paso puts out here: the releases, the in-custody, and the encounters. I would say it probably wouldn't count for the encounters in that case, but certainly would count for the in custody and then the eventual community releases regardless here. So that would be if they are doing, again, pre-processing, essentially. Now, if they're just doing it to just get it out of the area, then that would be the question I would have of if that is the case, if they're doing it in that fashion. I'm not aware of them having done that, CBP, ICE, and DHS agencies related to this under those levels. But if that is the case here, then it may not necessarily show up in these numbers, but I'm not aware of that having been the circumstance anytime recently in any case.
Right. Well, that was my question. I was kind of puzzled because they could be up in the thousands too. And then I just made a comment on regarding the judges,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's against the Democrats' religion to have anybody in office but a Democrat. Hey, history has proven that. We've had several really good, and Bill Hicks is an example. He was appointed twice, great attorney, and they run someone against him because it's a Republican. And Justice Sessions, Jeff Alley, great lawyer, great judge. He was appointed to the position. I think he's been appointed twice, if I'm not mistaken, too. And they run someone who isn't as qualified as he is, just to replace them, just to make sure that there isn't a Republican in office. And there's a lot of pride in it. And I understand pride, but where's the merit? Where's the talent? And that's my biggest deal is they just run people so that you can't say you have a Republican in office. That's my perception of what the Democrats do.
I get it. I guess the reason I call that maybe mildly sour grapes is that I would hope there'd be a spirit of bipartisanship and also of what would work in the community because, yeah, Bill Hicks is one of those names that has also come up. I want to say News Channel 9 has mentioned that name among others as a potential front runner. I guess I don't really know how you measure that at this point because I think it's a lot of speculation. So we'll see what actually comes out of it. But I would just say, I think the management part of it is probably the most important part at this point in time because, yes, again, there needs to be a very baseline prosecutorial ability to understand those parts of it. But really, we are talking about managing an office of dozens, if not hundreds of attorneys. I mean, hopefully getting back up to that level. So getting that,
counties.
Yeah, and across, yeah, the 3-4 etc. counties that are involved in it here. So, yeah. It needs to be handled very carefully, and I'm going to be more interested in the qualifications of a person than necessarily any allegiances, and I'm hoping that'll be the idea put into place, but, well, as we talked about, given some of those state-level politics, it may not be an overriding factor, but I'm hoping it's not the only factor.
Right. And the last thing I wanted to mention today was what Twitter revealed this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Briefly, if you can, we got about a minute.
Okay, we knew what was happening, but just reading about it was horrifying. And to find that the FBI met with them quarterly, then monthly, then weekly, and then the DNC and the Biden administration were there pressuring them to take things off the internet. We do not have equality anymore. We do not have justice, in my opinion. And until we get back to where the scales are level, this is our balance. This is what's going to continue to happen. And what, in my opinion, with everything that happened during the election and this, I believe, in my opinion, that we have squatters in the White House that have caused so much misery, heartache, and deaths worldwide. That's my opinion. And I just hope I hope we learn something from this.
All right. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We got to end up taking that break right now. So thanks for the call. And
thank you, Andrew.
Certainly. And so we got to hit that break for the top of the hour right now. We'll talk more about these things and related and the local situations after this break. Again, phone number to call 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The bicycles. The toy fire trucks. Instead of giving gifts that kids will outgrow, invite grandparents and friends to contribute to your child's future with the UNEST app. UNEST allows parents to create an investment account for their kids that makes it easy to gift funds that can be used for college tuition, a first car, and more, just by sharing a link. To get started, download the UNEST app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
Monetary tightening is weighing on the market. The Fed will meet next week and is expected to announce another rate hike at the end of its two-day meeting. At the closing bell, the Dow lost nearly 500 points. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper says helping the most vulnerable people during the Moore County power outage is the top priority. Nearly 40,000 customers are still without power after what Governor Cooper called a criminal attack on substations in Moore County. Moore County Sheriff Ronnie Fields confirmed the electrical equipment was shot at.
Evidence at the scene showed that the firearm had been used to disable the equipment.
Duke Power says outages could continue into Wednesday or Thursday. The Biden administration is opposed to doing away with the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for military service members. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said President Biden is in agreement with the Defense Secretary that the mandate should stay in place. She said the Pentagon has a range of vaccines service members are required to take. Meantime, health officials are encouraging Americans to wear masks to reduce the spread of respiratory illnesses. Lisa Taylor reports.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said wearing a mask is one of several everyday precautions people can take to reduce their chances of catching or spreading a respiratory virus during the winter. She also encouraged everyone to get their flu shot and COVID-19 booster. The recommendation comes as hospitals around the country are filling up with flu, COVID, and RSV patients.
The man accused of shooting Lady Gaga's dog walker and stealing her French bulldogs is getting a rough sentence. After Monday's no contest plea in Los Angeles, James Howard Jackson was immediately sentenced to 21 years in prison. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. NYPD crime statistics show anti-Semitic hate crimes are on the rise, and New York City Mayor Eric Adams is putting part of the blame on social media. Natalie Migliori reports.
It comes after the NYPD reported 45 crimes against the Jewish community last month, up from 20 in November of 2021.
What social media is doing to normalize hate, to give a platform for hate, to spread hate, is just really alarming.
The mayor says New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel and is partnering with organizations for ongoing education initiatives. He's calling on prosecutors to hold perpetrators fully accountable, saying there should be no plea bargaining.
The operator of Massachusetts Power Grid is cautiously optimistic there will be an adequate supply of electricity for mild to moderate winter conditions. ISO New England says it also has contingency plans for an extended period of extreme cold. It says it will use forecasting tools to identify potential issues. Hurricane season is over, but a potential subtropical system is churning in the Atlantic. Richard Pash with the National Hurricane Center says the low pressure area doesn't have well-organized circulation yet.
We're looking at the models. They do suggest that it may try to take on some subtropical characteristics over the next few days. It could certainly acquire the strength of a tropical storm. Winds are near gale, already near gale force.
Cyclone formation over the next 5 days is around 40%. A Colorado festival dedicated to a frozen dead guy is being resurrected in a new location. Frozen Dead Guy Days will be held on St. Patrick's Day weekend in Estes Park, about an hour and a half northwest of Denver. The festival is based on the true story of a Norwegian man who was frozen after his death and then brought to Colorado by his grandson. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, and age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
The holidays are a busy time. If you plan to go to someone's home this holiday season, please find out if there are firearms and if they are safely stored. Practicing safe gun storage protects our kids, prevents accidents, and keeps our firearms out of the hands of criminals.
To learn more about how to talk to others about safe gun storage, go to safegunstorage.texas.com for more information. And let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
iHeartland in Fort Knight. Now open.
Ready, know that?
Yeah.
The hottest concerts from the hottest artists. iHeartland in Fortnite. Games. Friends. Fun.
One more time.
The hottest concerts from the hottest artists. iHeartland in Fortnite. Games. Friends. Fun. Ready up and grab your squad. Go to iHeartRadio.com/iHeartland to start playing.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at KCSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of questions and comments being gotten into over there, but dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. We do have Amber Banda, Sergio Faz, Frank Rodriguez, Matt Olson, Robert Haynes, Lucky Menace, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and, oh gosh, why does it always cut me off sometimes? One more there. We do appreciate it. You can go and see the likes for yourself here. No, you're on the list here if you were actually doing that there. So let's see if we can get the last name up here by looking at it a completely different way. And we try things, and sometimes they work here in this case here. Oh, James Holmes. There we go. They didn't say that one already. In any case, the phone lines are open, if full up at the moment, as we are kicking off this pre-holiday week. I know we're a few weeks out technically, but it's just already feeling like we're encroaching upon it here. But if you want to get on the line a little bit later, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Next up on the line, we do have Jerry on the northwest side of town here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
I too, think that Thanksgiving is a holiday.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And you don't have to celebrate the gift of Christ coming to earth for just 2 weeks. Some people celebrate it for more than a month.
That's true.
So it doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, some of us rednecks keep our front porch lights on all year long. So
different problem there, I would say, but point well taken.
Okay. Anyway, I know Mr. Moody is looking for a Democrat to be appointed, but if we really want somebody that's going to be honest, let's not nominate a Democrat for the DA's position here in El Paso. So that's all I wanted to say. Oh, one more thing. While I remember it, last weekend, Friday, after I went through my spiel about the organizations that are Christian organizations and helping other people,
sure,
there was a comment somewhere that said for me to get over it. But that causes things like what's happening in New York, where you have a lot of people that are going against Jewish communities and having a lot of just heard on your own newscast there. From, I believe it's ABC or NBC, that the Jewish community in New York is suffering a lot of hatred, and a lot of people have gone against them and hurting them in crime. So, it's those things that when the people speak out of other organizations that cause that. And of course, we all remember what happened in the 1930s over in Germany. So I'm not going to get over it. When somebody bashes my Lord and Savior, I'm going to step up and say you're wrong. Just let you know out there.
No, fair enough.
Radio land. Thank you, sir. You have a Merry Christmas.
You too as well, and a Happy New Year, but I'm sure we'll talk further before that point there.
Okay, bye-bye.
Appreciate the point of the call there. I guess the way I think about it is that if you disagree with someone, you should definitely make it clear here. I guess the way I go about it is not a normal one in that, again, I first seek to understand and then to be understood in most of these circumstances here. But if you got something that you're passionate about, yeah, I mean, go about it. Just know there may be more or less effective ways to do so, I guess, is I think where the idea comes down to it, that maybe kind of like a sticks and stones kind of way. But I also will say that, I mean, I've been on record many times saying that this whole idea of you don't talk politics, religion, finances at the table has not necessarily served us well. I mean, there's ways to talk about things. Let me say, you should talk about those things at the dinner table, Thanksgiving table, whatever. You shouldn't scream about them at the table. Let me make that kind of a fine distinction here, that, you know, discussion, debate, even light argumentation and bringing your passion to it is important here. If you go all fire and brimstone on someone, yeah, you're beyond all of those bounds I just laid out there. I will say that much here, but there are important things to be talked about here, particularly when it comes to the district attorney's office and the other parts of it here. Is actually noted by, I want to say, El Paso Matters, who also did cite that potential Bill Hicks is noted there, which note that in rereading that right now during the break I had missed is that apparently he was outside the courtroom during some of these recent hearings. Let me find the quote exactly here from El Paso Matters reporting here. Yes, quote, Hicks was in the hallway outside the 409th District Court when Medrano's hearing ended on Wednesday. When asked by reporters if he was a candidate for the DA appointment, Hicks declined comment, end quote. So, yeah, that's definitely one of those names out there, but I just felt like I kept ignoring the potential for Moody. But also, I will say that El Paso Matters has indicated that Governors Rick Perry and Greg Abbott have not always appointed Republicans to fill El Paso judicial vacancies. Perry appointed Steve Hughes, a Democrat, to the 8th Court of Appeals in 2014. So, stranger things have happened, I guess, would be the way I put it here. But again, my analysis, given the current state politics here, I would be surprised if that wasn't the case, or we're talking about a real unicorn kind of situation. Anyway, and Stephen Christopher, us and our silly conservative talk. Anyway, I mean, we do talk about a variety of issues, some of them being conservative, but we'll definitely keep doing that as we do here. Let's go back to those phone lines. Got time for one more this segment, but of course, phone lines will be open through the end of the program as we usually do. Right now, we do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. You know, I think the Constitution of the United States affects El Paso. And I think who the president is affects El Paso. The last president of the U.S. affected El Paso by stiffing the city for $500,000 in unpaid rally security costs. You know, his local supporters should write him and ask him to pay the bill or pay the bill themselves for him. Now, in addition to that, his hateful, racist, xenophobic rhetoric incited a Trump terrorist to drive 600 miles from Dallas to El Paso to kill himself some Mexicans. So about Trump's comments about the Constitution. Now, I'm not a Republican or a conservative, so I'll quote one. A true conservative, a traditional Republican, Liz Cheney, a true patriot, not like those morons and Trump pawns who stormed the Capitol. Liz Cheney said, Donald Trump believes we should terminate all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, to overturn the 2020 election. That was his view on 1/6 and remains his view today. No honest person can now deny that Trump is an enemy of the Constitution. Now, Andrew, presidents can affect people's lives in huge ways. Life and death. War and peace.
Certainly.
I was of draft age during the Vietnam War, and I got a college deferment for 2 years and a high lottery number starting my junior year. I didn't want to go, and neither did my mother or my grandmother, whose parents were Mexican Revolution War refugees. So I lucked out, and I didn't have to go to Vietnam for an unjust and unnecessary war prosecuted by America's plutocrats, the military-industrial complex, and the best politicians plutocrats money can buy. Now, politicians have gotten people killed. In that Vietnam War, 55,000 American troops lost their lives to fight communism. You know, now we do business with the communists, and they're our biggest lenders, the Chi-Coms. And Trump has his stuff made over there, and so does a lot of the S&P 500 companies, you know. So the capitalists and the plutocrats, you know, back then they said, well, we had to fight them over there so they wouldn't spread over here. And that's like what Bush #2 supporters said about Bush's invasion and occupation of Iraq, which had nothing to do with the attack on the Twin Towers. Better to fight them over there than over here is what the Republicans Republicans were arguing at the time, and that he was developing nuclear and biological weapons, a lie that the Bush administration told. And I read that Bush dropped more bombs on Iraq than we did in Vietnam and World War II combined. And who knows how many millions of innocent Vietnamese civilians died because of what the U.S. government did under Democrats and Republicans. So I lost my faith in both of those parties early on. I did vote for McGovern and Obama, but I didn't vote for Clinton or Kerry or Humphrey. I'm an independent, unlike most of your callers and posters, who I bet you are lifelong Republicans, and a bunch of them are Trumpers. I voted green or not at all more times than I voted for Democratic candidates. But I'm proud to say that I never voted for a Republican presidential candidate like Nixon or Reagan or Bush #2 or Trump. The fake conservative Republicans have historically been bad for the economy, and key economic metrics are 2 times better under Democratic presidents than they are under Republicans. The Republicans, the party of the Great Depression, of the Great Recession under Bush #2. So my question to you, Andrew, is do you think someone like Trump, who would want to scrap the Constitution, is qualified to be the President of the United States?
Let me just put it this way. And of course, you're entitled to your political beliefs and who you want to vote for. And if you feel confident and good about your choices there, you're more than entitled to that here. Let me just put it this way, that I don't care who is saying it. Anyone calling for a suspension of the Constitution, any parts of it, and for any political purpose here, I'm going to find myself opposed to and not supporting in that argument. And again, regardless of who is saying it or the circumstances involved in it, because the Constitution, I don't just keep it around because it's a nice prop. I don't have this pocket Constitution. I mean, it's been handy for me to refer to here, but I've also got like the nicer versions on my shelf over there that include like the Federalist Papers and those kind of things that I have spent my time in college and other education parts studying. Is not something to be, it's not a switch to be flipped. It's not something to have when it's convenient, because it's kind of like principles. If you only do it when it's convenient, and as soon as there is hardship, difficulty, things you disagree with, are they really principles? And in that case, no, I would argue they're not. As much as character is what you do when no one else is looking, or no one that has of importance to you is paying attention to you, it's very much the same way when it comes to the current principles of this country. If we're not following them when it's important to, I mean, there's been a lot of debate raging on this over the weekend here. So it's not exactly what we talk about during the week on this program here, but I'm not blind to this either. Fact of the matter is that if you believe that there were violations of the Constitution, the way to then rectify those is by then investigating and prosecuting those, not by removing the Constitution, not well, you too, pointing the finger back at them, because that is how we end up with not a country. And all the ways that have been talked about here, if we are willing to violate the very core tenets because of, let's be honest, political expediency. That has been one phrase that I have never said favorably. The idea that, well, it's politically expedient, therefore we should do it. No. There's been so many problems caused in this country because of political expediency, because of the idea that, well, we got to get this done right now, otherwise it'll be so awful later, so we just got to do this, and then we'll fix it later. We'll go back. We don't want to do it, but we have to. No way, no how, no time. And if you think that this makes you disloyal or against someone that you might otherwise like as a person, all that means that you're doing is you're actively thinking for yourself and not just signing on to, yep, I agree with everything this person says here, which is not how it's supposed to work in a democracy. Not saying that you have to like or dislike any candidate, person, whomever. Much discussion as there is about the former president or now the former senator, Liz Cheney, those kind of things, and more than a couple of comments going by there. Flaco Jimenez was on a unrelated note saying he just voted in District 6. Thank you very much for that. But seriously, violation of the Constitution for, if you want to change the Constitution, there are ways to do that. There are mechanisms, constitutional amendments. So if you got something you want to see changed, go through the process, do it. It's not impossible, even if it hasn't happened in the most modern era we've got here. But seriously, to say anything besides that is self-serving at best, and other phrases I can't use at worst here. And there's just there's no justification for it. If you didn't like what happened, frankly, I hope that gets you involved. But if you're thinking that, therefore, we need to turnabout as fair play being an idea here, absolutely not. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. But taking that next break, coming out of this, getting to more calls on the line, more points to be made, more things we're getting to here. And just as a side note, if you're trying to tell someone what their values are or aren't, you're probably going to have a bad time about that either. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an entry accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of fans download the popular Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast to get to the bottom of popular culture's biggest myths. And now, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book separates conspiracy fact from conspiracy theory, from biological testing to our endless fascination with the Kennedy assassination. This holiday season, give the gift that explains the unexplainable. The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book. Available now. Order at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com or wherever you buy your books.
Your Social Security disability claim has been denied. In this stressful situation, you aren't alone. John Sipes, attorney at law, can help. If you're between 55 and 65 years old, can no longer work, and have been denied disability benefits by the Social Security Administration, or need help applying, contact John Sipes. Even if you're under 55 and a serious mental or physical impairment prevents you from working, John Sipes is here for you. Get started at ElPasoDisabilityLawyer.com. That's ElPasoDisabilityLawyer.com.
Paid for by government.com.
Have you heard? A recent stash of 1904 Morgan silver dollar coins has been found. These gorgeous 1904 silver dollar coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck. This is a key date for silver dollar collectors, and only a limited quantity are available. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone interested in silver coins. Just call government at 1-800-563-6468, and you are guaranteed a mint condition 1904 Morgan silver dollar, featuring the iconic mint mark of the New Orleans Mint, the final year of production. But with limited quantity, you must call now. These 1904 silver coins are still in uncirculated condition. That is 117 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-563-6468. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-563-6468 now to secure your 1904 Morgan silver dollars before they sell out. That's 1-800-563-6468.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines open if full up at the moment, so let's take down the number. Make sure you got it handy there. It's always on our screen, by the way, when we're taking the calls, but the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot more to get to there on the many topics we're getting into, but don't want to be remiss here. Flocky Menace saying just voted in District 6, so giving traditional thank you for doing so. In fact, we might have one other sound effect we'll give for this one, a special one just for voting in the actual ding damn runoff like no one else is here. I think I'll find it here in just a moment because it's another good one, but I got to find it on my lists. Yeah, I'll find it in a bit. Anyway, I do appreciate you doing that and hope everyone will follow your example and going out and actually participating in this, process of voting that we have here that takes people to actually do it. Anyway, let's go to those phone lines now. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Yeah, I wanted to comment, I guess, on what the first caller mentioned about Twitter, and also what Raul mentioned about Trump's quote that not a lot of people are familiar with, because they're all interrelated and they all deal with how conservative radio and media communicate to their followers. Just a quick quote, Trump's quote real quick, that was inspired by Matt Taibbi's reporting on Twitter. That inspired this quote from Trump. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. And mind you, what Matt Taibbi tweeted out, the emails, they didn't confirm or prove the things that right-wing media is claiming they are. If you're, conservative media is depending on you not reading those emails and not being able to make sense of them yourselves. Like if you were to read the emails, you'd clearly see Matt Taibbi state that Trump's campaign also specifically requested specific tweets to be removed, and they got them removed. They both had access, both Republicans and Democrats. And Matt Taibbi, he agreed to specific conditions with under Elon Musk. Musk made him agree to specific conditions on reporting on the emails that he gave him. So we already know that the reporting of this Twitter story is right-wing disinformation, especially if you look at how conservative talk radio is promoting it. They're saying it proves bias, that that Twitter favors Democrats, when Matt Taibbi said that bias comes from access, like having friends, that Republicans who work for Twitter give access to Republicans and Democrats give access to Democrats. And
Right. So anyone unfamiliar with what we're talking about, you're talking about the much vaunted Twitter files, the reporting that came out, was it like Friday or Saturday or something like that here, and went into some of the circumstances, particularly surrounding the reporting of the whole Hunter Biden laptop. When it initially came out, the New York Post stories that were involving this here, and I think I've read most, if not all of it. It's a little bit unclear. Some of the formatting that, ironically enough, Twitter has on the put out of this here is not very useful. So I think I've gotten to the major points, including what you're referring to there, on the idea that they were responsive to both sides, but essentially that the reporter involved here says that there were more connections in left-wing circles, and so therefore more like personal requests or kind of like, side channels, not necessarily back channels, were put there. And so, yeah, I've read that part of it here, but let me just say this before continuing on here, that the idea of manipulation, any media organization, there's a lot of them out there these days that are very much involved in picking their audience here, self-selection, but going back to the older tradition of putting things out there and trying to avoid the idea of bias. I mean, there can even be activists with it, the old muckraker tradition, but the idea of things not being as they appear and any kind of outlet or thing like that is, I think, reasonably concerning to people. Even if it has always existed, it being put forth in such ways like this can be concerning to people. So should there be more repercussions, more talk about it? Probably. But yeah, getting to some of the further conclusions about therefore what should happen or impacts on elections and such here, that is absolutely a bridge too far. I will say that much.
Yeah, turnabout among Republicans, that's why I'm really concerned about the disinformation promoted by conservative media, about election fraud, lies, terrorism, and social media manipulation, because conservatives, they have in their minds, oh, well, they're doing this, therefore I'm justified in doing it. And you could see Musk setting up that argument already in justifying his his pro-Republican views and how he's already promoting right-wing conspiracy theories and, involving Nancy Pelosi's attacker. Right-wing media, they're justifying all of this corrupt, bad behavior. Like if you look at how they refer to left-wing media, that's how they justify telling the lies that they do 24/7, because they claim, all credible sources lie and push left-wing narratives, so therefore I'm justified in countering it.
Okay, let me just say this. We're getting back into this whole, 30,000 foot everything is bad that I disagree with kind of analysis that I am increasingly tired of. But let me say this again, as I said in the last segment, even the idea of things being, turnabout as fair play is not how politics works. If wrong has been committed, a lot of phrases come to mind. Eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, particularly when it comes to such an important platform. Twitter has legitimately been. I remember during the quote unquote green revolution, not green as in like Green New Deal, but green as in the color of essentially the cause that was being put forth here, green banners and such in Iran. And back like, was that like the mid to late 2000s? I need to think about exactly when that was here, but it was actually it was fascinating at that point in time as a nascent media person myself, seeing that unfold in real time on social media and the back and forth on it here. So it has been and continues to be an incredibly important platform. But as much as I said with the Constitution that anything that has gone wrong with it or being mishandled or being done wrong does not mean therefore we dispense with it, much with any kind of rules of propriety. It means that they need to be investigated, need to be looked at, need to be held accountable, but you still keep these core principles. Again, principles, if abandoned at the first sign of trouble, were they ever really principles or just something you like to tell yourself? And I will definitely hold to that here. And as much as people may disagree with the interpretations on it here, let me just say the idea of there being anything besides, again, the ultimate truth, whether we get to that or not here. But let me also just make a further distinction here as the comments keep coming in here that there's a difference between disagreeing on principles and what should or shouldn't be done to country and disagreeing with you. Make a fine line there. With that, we got to take that break now. Thanks for the point of the call again for what it's worth here. But we got to take that next break at the bottom of the hour on the news update. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso Children's Hospital is at full bed capacity due to flu and RSV cases. Officials at the hospital say they've seen an increase in RSV and flu cases throughout the past several weeks. They say the number of patients during the time of year is much higher than in previous respiratory seasons. RSV typically affects children. Officials say that there has also been an uptick in COVID-19 cases and that hospitalizations have doubled in the last 2 to 3 weeks. There are currently 100 patients hospitalized with COVID-19 in El Paso County. In southern New Mexico, a man from Ruidoso was sentenced to life in prison after he killed his 2-year-old toddler. Ricardo Soto was sentenced today. Soto was convicted of intentional child abuse resulting in death. In the death of 2-year-old Jeremiah Nevares, the child was killed in 2018. Soto fled to Mexico before his arrest at the border. Soto won't be eligible for parole for at least 25 years. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Global Reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. With the recent rains, we could be waking up yet again to some patchy, dense fog, especially for those areas in the low-lying locations in the valleys. As far as our forecast goes through the rest of the day, we are looking at another front coming in by midweek, and that will introduce a little more moisture with a slight increase in rain chances and some cooler temperatures. Log on to KFOXTV.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Enter the Craftsman Days Ultimate Garage Sweepstakes sponsored by Lowe's for a chance to win Craftsman products valued at over $10,000. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/31. Residents of 50 USDC, 18 or older, in age of majority, and have a Lowe's.com account. Void where prohibited. See rules at Lowe'sUltimateGarage.com for entry instructions, odds, prices, etc. Sponsor Lowe's.
The hugs, the joy, even the sleepless nights. Whatever you get from parenthood, you always want to give your children everything. And the UNest app makes it easy to save for their future. The Unest app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. Plus, you'll grow your Unest account with every purchase you make from over 150 top brands like Disney Plus and DoorDash. Start building your child's financial future. Download the Unest app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
New on Curiosity Stream. Across the globe, coral reefs are dying, but not without a fight. Scientists discover a new heat-resistant super reef. What's its secret we can use to save the rest? It's breakthrough reefs of hope. And humanity's future, a thriving multi-planet species, or will AI run the show? See how today's choices in technology and science may seal our fate on 10 Seconds to the Future. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. And for a limited time, get 40% off our annual plan. That's just $1 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in and chiming in over on those pages as well, dropping those, among other things, likes and reacts that we do appreciate, including, oh, come on, why is the list not cooperating with me here? We just had it. In any case, those adding those, Amber Banda, Richard Janasik, Stephen Christopher, Ida Beza Gardner, Ion Graham, Sergio Foz, Matt Olson, Robert Haynes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and James Holmes. I think there's maybe one more there that I'm missing. The lists get confusing sometimes. In any case, if you're doing it, we appreciate it. If I didn't read the name, apologies in advance and forevermore. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines now. Again, if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side on line with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, I'll try to be brief. Reference the district attorney's office and Bill Hicks. Looking at his credentials, he is well qualified. You know, in the past, he did serve about 14 years as a prosecutor himself.
Right, yeah, no, this is not a question on his qualifications or not, why I'm saying that I don't know if it'll work out or not. The fact of the matter is that we basically just don't know we have no real hints at, except for, again, what El Paso's Matters analysis I was reading some of is coming from just the track record of what has happened for judicial appointments in our area. This is a pretty unprecedented, at least within, recent decades kind of circumstance here. So we haven't got really much any hints out of the Abbott administration. So this has been one of the things been put forth kind of in general in the legal community in El Paso. So we'll see if that actually works out or not. But yeah, no, didn't mean to cast any aspersions on his credentials or possibilities. We just, your guess is as good as mine, honestly, on whether that is actually the thinking of Abbott.
True, very true. Well, come 2024, for sure, we'll have a Democrat in the district attorney's office.
Quite possibly again, and that actually, there was one comment I wanted to get to earlier that I have lost in the milieu, but something commenting on the fact of the matter about straight party voting and those kind of things, and I can understand that, but I do just want to make the point here that this is not. I mean, it could be argued this is an outcome of people just voting Democrat, but also. Further point to be made, this is an aspect of people only being able to vote Democrat in this case here. There was no Republican opponent here, and that's why, it's been one of those circumstances over the years that it has been, if you don't vote in the Democrat primary, depending on the race, you might not actually be able to vote at all on that because it's decided in the primary and with no opponent goes on that list of declared elected. So let me just say that that's one of those things that I don't like to see. So I would hope that there would actually be a choice come 2024 and it not just be a, well, the primary is over, you're elected kind of situation, because that just never sits right with me.
Yes, well, even if you had an open system like many jurisdictions have in other states, it's like I've said before. If the devil himself were a Democrat, for sure he'd be elected into office here in El Paso County.
Again, maybe, but I don't really know what the solution would be for the open system here, because Texas definitely has partisan primaries. And so you can vote in either. You don't have to be a card carrying anything, but you do have to then declare yourself for that party for the duration of that primary election. So the primary, the runoffs, any associated things with it, if there have to be any further things beyond that, which, I mean, that's usually the total gist of it. So I don't really know if there's a good other way. I guess I haven't totally studied other states' primaries when it comes to that way, because, yeah, usually it's a way that a party is choosing who it wants to represent itself, and therefore they kind of want to keep it closed. So I guess I'm not wanting to go necessarily Iowa caucus route with this, where that gets – I've had friends, because I went out of state to college up in Illinois and never actually went and visited myself, was tempted to, because that is such a fascinating, if insane process. I had people who actually attended it that I knew of here, and they said that, yeah, that's, you want to get complicated and down to the nitty gritty of democracy. Oh boy, you can hard pressed to find a better example, or a better, more intense example.
Yes, agreed. Well, my next point was this. I don't advocate, nor do I ever think it's a good idea at any time for the Constitution of this country to be suspended. We saw what happened with the basic abuse of human rights and civil rights during World War II. Although the Constitution was not suspended, individual rights were suspended by the internment of Japanese Americans at the onset of World War II.
Yeah, that is one of those episodes that is not fun to talk about, but absolutely needs to be talked about. And I mean, that's one of the more bright line and seriously impacting items that came out of that. But I was also surprised how, I mean, that's a lot of focus is taken up on that, on domestic policies in terms of a response to major crises. Another one that comes to mind here would be the suspension of habeas corpus that happened during the Civil War here. Again, there's some justification to be made, but in the long and span of history, I'm not sure if any of those, well, with the internment, I'm positive that's not a right decision, and habeas corpus, I am very much leaning towards it not being one. But also, particularly during the lead up to and in the aftermath of the Great Depression specifically, there were a lot of things put into place. Like, it blew my mind that it was up until like the late 70s or 80s that it was essentially illegal for Americans to own essentially investor gold. Like, they could have jewelry, but they couldn't own, like, a gold coin, except for very specific circumstances, because of policies coming out of the Great Depression and things that were put into place in the whole New Deal, including locking down of safety deposit boxes. Like, there was a lot of impacts that came out of that I am not sure would fly at all today.
That is correct, and I think that executive order was lifted by then the President Gerald Ford. But to be factual, and Eric, let me tell you, and Raul, let me tell you, that suspension of the rights of Japanese Americans in 1941, that was by a Democratic president, by Roosevelt himself.
No, that is absolutely correct.
Yes. Okay, and one of the other things I was going to talk about, just mention briefly, Title 42 and its suspension coming up. However, the Biden administration is still going to mandate the vaccines in the United States military.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple times in the past here, and I mean, honestly, okay, having never served, but having known a lot of people who've had a lot of conversations about them here, I mean, it was at one point in time that the joke / not a joke was the reason tattoos were not allowed in the military is because you're defacing government property. Now, again, that was kind of the joke here, but also kind of the reality that being a part of, particularly with the all-volunteer force we have at the moment here, yeah, we get into a draft, circumstances may change, probably won't actually, but the considerations about them will change. But the fact of the matter is, you are signing up for a dedicated military organization of which certain requirements there are. I mean, vaccinations have existed. I mean, we're talking, I think, specifically about the COVID vaccine there, but I mean, there have been instances and even issues with things such as like smallpox vaccines, regional disease vaccines, based on deployments that have been going on for generations at this point, to my understanding.
Yes, agreed. But my deal, and I don't see any harm with the vaccine mandate in the military. But what I'm saying is, it makes no sense to suspend Title 42 when you
Okay.
are requiring this of the military.
Fair enough. I can get that juxtaposition there as an issue, but again, I want to call it even odds, if just because I don't have any mitigating factors of whether or not Title 42 will just go away and that will be the end of it, or whether there will be something new coming. Again, that is some of the essentially implication being brought up by local nonprofits and regional ones as well about what comes next and the level of concern they are expressing about what could be coming, them calling it potentially draconian. So we'll see, I guess, is the best answer I can give there at the moment.
True. Well, just to elaborate a little more briefly, right now we've got a big flu epidemic going on. There's hospitalizations, and my next point and last point, well, to Raul. Trump may owe $500,000 to the city of El Paso. He should pay it. That's for sure. But the federal government under Biden owes El Paso over $9 million.
Yeah, that was the thought in the back of my mind as well. I guess I forgot about that one. So thank you for bringing it back up.
No problem. Andrew, I turn the mic over to you. Have a good evening.
You too as well here. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Goodbye.
And again, specifically $9.52 million is the total cost. So, okay, it's about $7.32 million. But yeah, it's the number has been very much at focus here. And that's only from the city side of it, not counting county expenses as well here. So, okay, you got time for at least one more call this segment here. We'll see what we can get to. We have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. Right out of the box, I had a thought process I wanted to share with you until I heard this Eric guy. And I'm going to call him egregious Eric. So let me ask you this, because he was kind of disconnected to his thought process here. But is he saying, and I'm asking you this, is he saying that Twitter is a liberal democratic platform? Is that what he's saying?
I think he was saying more or less the opposite, or at the very least under the current owner or the burgeoning ownership by Musk at this point.
So, okay, because he was like all over the map, and I couldn't quite follow him, and it specifically hinged on this idiotic statement by this orange-faced Julius fat butt creep Donnie Dotard, who says he wants to overturn the Constitution so he can get back to the presidency. And this Eric guy is saying something about some guy, Matt Hobby or whatever. I don't care what TV host, newscast, or whatever it is. The guy said what he said. I'm talking to Donnie Dotard. He said he wanted to overturn the Constitution of the United States. Now, you people out there, you still believe in this jerk that actually believes that he should turn over the Constitution because he feels that he's been robbed of what do you call it, an election, when it's been proven 14 different ways of Sunday that it was legal? What is the matter with you people out there? I think that's to you too, egregious Eric. So that's my comment. What do you got to say about that?
I mean, Twitter, I feel like this relates to a couple different conversations we've had in general before, also on the idea of censorship. What does it mean in the modern era? Because, sure, censorship, legally defined, involves the government depriving you of your right to speech or removing certain parts of it for reasons, good or bad. It still amounts to censorship. I mean, if there's a certain argument to be made about, classified files, nuclear secrets, those kind of things being reasonably censored. But when it comes to the idea that you're not able to express your opinions freely, that's when you start getting to the egregious part of censorship. But of course, in the modern era, we have companies, a select few. I mean, there's dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of social media platforms out there, but we got a few big ones that, as much as we used to have the big three back in, it was still kind of a thing when I was growing up, at least I heard the phrase, but ABC, NBC, CBS, at least in this country, being kind of arbiters of this information, what's available or not. But now we've got essentially, Twitter, Facebook, and kind of maybe Reddit I would put in there, but you could pick a third, and the idea of them having an outsized amount of control on what is able to be said in the public sphere. Not so much that they are saying, always you're not allowed to say things that we find controversial or wrong, though those definitely happen. But the fact of the matter is that they even shape by their policies what is able to be done. I've commented on the past the idea that you can't even say, for fear of being demonetized or being not exactly deplatformed, but having your reach cratered, say things like death or wine anymore. Like literally wine, W-I-N-E, as in the alcoholic beverage, can lead to you having your video reach cratered. I've been reading papers on this and analysis of it because they're not transparent about it. So censorship, yes, has a very much definition, but the implications of it in the modern era are that if a platform that prides itself or puts us out there as ability to communicate and put things out, but is therefore making it so that certain things can't be put out or talked about, that does, I think, violate the conscience of a lot of people that may not fully realize that is the situation.
All right, I got that. Everything you just said there. But wait a minute. Okay, freedom of speech. ABC, NBC, all that other thing you just said there. Wait a minute. If you can get out there and say everything under the sun, that 2 + 2 = 5, freedom of speech. But it actually is 4. So how many people out there are going to say, oh, my God, this guy, Donnie Dotard, said it equals 5, and because I'm so stupid, I believe it's 5 because he said it's 5. You got people like this egregious Eric and everybody else out there that believes 2 + 2 = 5. This is nuts, Andrew. It's nuts. That's my comment.
Well, I will agree on the idea that anyone blindly following anyone else's statements for whatever reason is not how this country is supposed to work. Like, pick the people you want to lead and the people to represent you, and how you ever want to make that decision is up to you. But they're saying, sign up for all of it, agree to all of the above here, and I don't have to think anymore. That's where I'm always going to find myself opposed to it, because that's literally not how this is supposed to work.
No, I hear what you're saying. I love it. You're a great person, Andrew. Merry Christmas again. And keep me on the line because I got another stupid static again. You keep me on the phone.
Sure, we'll keep you. We got to take that next break now. So thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we're coming up on the need for that last break. I think we just got enough time to tell you what we got coming up for you. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time, because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
The Where Were You in 92 podcast brings you back to the year of big butt anthems, achy breaky hearts, and grunge. Take an audio trip back in time to relive the wildest, most eclectic, and controversial 12 months in music through interviews with critics, industry bigwigs, and the artists themselves.
Take me back to a magical time when music was magic, and I had completely burned that to the ground.
Listen to Where Were You in 92 on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mario Cordy Lopez here with a fresh breath tip for the holidays.
We all love the parties, friends and family, but up close moments can be awkward.
Yeah, they can. Smart Mouth mouthwash gives you 24 hours of fresh breath confidence with just 2 rinses a day.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath all day, and rinsing at night even stops morning breath.
Wow.
Give yourself the gift of holiday confidence with Smart Mouth. Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Parents, are you tired of helping put your kids' shoes on? They're squirming, watching cartoons, anything but helping. Luckily, it's Skechers to the rescue. Introducing new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Footwear you can just get your kids to step into and their shoes are on. You don't need to bend over. You don't need to sit on the floor and try to wrangle them on. Actually, you don't even have to touch them. With Skechers slip-ins, they just step in and go. Plus, they're so easy, they could be the first shoes your kids can put on by themselves. And Skechers slip-ins are great for older kids too. They're quick, easy, and fun. The secret is a unique comfort pillow in the heel that helps your child's foot slide securely into place and cradle it in comfort. Plus, they're available in all types of Skechers styles with and without laces. And most are machine washable, so you can keep them looking newer longer. Get Skechers slip-ins, the where have you been all my life shoes, for your kids or for mom and dad today. Find Skechers slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
Because everyone deserves excellent medical care, El Paso has its own free community medical clinic. RotoCare is a free walk-in clinic located at 301 South Schutz Drive and is devoted to improving the health of all El Pasoans, including those without insurance or legal documentation. RotoCare is open most Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, call 790-0700. RotoCare, because everyone deserves excellent medical care.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but also YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under similar names, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Busy week for y'all here. Of course, we got some slight schedule modifications coming up for you. We won't be here on Friday, but we'll have some new programming for you. Just won't be using our usual end-of-week festivities / activities or observances. Really need to figure out our terminology towards what we call Free for All Friday. I treat it as sacrosanct, but I'm not going to demand anyone else do that here. It's one of my most important days of the week anyway. But we'll be doing it on Thursday there, so talk about Thursday. Oh, I'm still workshopping that one. Anyway, the call-in show will be Thursday this week. Just as a note there. And coming up for you a little bit later this week, I'll be talking more about not even just the district attorney situation, but what needs to happen next, including with, some former El Paso judges, including Luis Aguilar, who just have some interesting circumstances involving the whole replacement and even some of those court situations. Also got more coming up with our news partners there at KFOX 14. And again, even more details on some of the other parts of our local situations, including what's going on with the food bank there. So those are just a few of the things we got working on for you, but we'll have to leave it there for today because we are super out of time here for this show. So I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show in any way. Seriously, these discussions, for all that they are worth, and I do mean that, are what make this worthwhile to me because sure, I could just be in a room shouting at a microphone and hoping people agree or disagree or whatever here, but that's not what I'm interested in. There's plenty of other people doing that, both locally, nationwide, across the world. Anyway, point is we need to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderlands. So if you're a part of that in any way, I do appreciate it, and you. So until next time, as we are live every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., back with you tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Global reach is starting to slow down this afternoon southbound between Liberty Expressway and Montana Avenue with 24-minute delays. I-10 eastbound after Trans Mountain, a disabled big rigs blocking the right shoulder at Trade Center Avenue. Northbound Dyer at Threadgill, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Take Lee Trevino as your alternate there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Safe gun storage is the duty of every gun owner. Just follow these 3 steps. 1. Store firearms unloaded and secured using a storage device. 2. Store and lock ammunition safely. And 3. Keep others from getting access at all times.
There is a safe gun storage option for every budget. To learn more about safely storing firearms, go to safegunstorage.texas.com for more information. Let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
New on Curiosity Street. Get ready for the best of the best with our 100 Days of Curiosity, featuring fan favorite titles like Light on Earth with Sir David Attenborough.
Join me on a journey like no other.
Stephen Hawking's favorite places.
It's a crazy world out there.
The History of Home with Nick Offerman.
Not my home, just homes. Other people's homes.
And many more. It's 100 Days of Curiosity. And for a limited time, get 40% off our annual plan. That's just $1 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio. 690 News on the hour KTSM. and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Pfizer wants the FDA to approve its updated COVID-19 shots for tots. The new vaccine would not be a booster, but rather serve as the third shot in the 3-dose primary series. The adapted vaccine is currently used as a booster dose for those over the age of 5. The formula targets Omicron subvariants. Arizona's election results are being certified after contentious races up and down the ballot. Current Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, who's set to become the state's next governor, claimed powerful voices spread misinformation that threatened to disenfranchise voters in the state.
Democracy prevailed, but it's not out of the woods. 2024 will bring a host of challenges from the election denial community that we must prepare for.
Democrat Hobbs beat Republican Carrie Lake, and Lake has refused to